ever since I changed that, that is what has kept me going in recovery, and that was the one thing that made recovery stick for me. Hi Shani families, welcome to Educating Shani. I'm Shani and I survived an eating disorder. Hi Shani, hi! Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. I'm Shani. I post things about eating disorders and mental health, and sometimes I do other things, but lately it's just been eating disorder stuff. So if any of that interests you, please subscribe. This is actually a video I've been wanting to make for quite a while. I had a therapy session a few months ago, and my therapist, and I'm no longer seeing him. I saw him a few times, it just didn't fit right. But you know, he gave me one piece of advice that changed my recovery. For those that are new, I'm Shani. I've had eating disorders since I was 5 years old. It started with binge eating disorder, gained a lot of weight and was bullied for it during elementary school and everything. And then I got to junior high and I realized that boys didn't like the fat girls, and so, but I was like too addicted to food by then, and so I started purging. That's when I became bulimic. When I was 17-ish, I was anorexic for a year, I believe. Then I met my husband and I was really happy, and I didn't actually have an eating disorder, or at least no behaviors during that time. And then we got married, and then I started having memories coming up, and a lot of hard things were happening with my health and everything, and I relapsed into my bulimia. And then that lasted all the way up until a year and a half ago. So I have 31 years experience with eating disorders. I'm really old. So anyway, so that's kind of my backstory. So we were in therapy one day and he asked me about my eating disorder. I started telling him about it. I told him the same thing I just told you, how it started, why it started. It started because my dad was abusing me mentally and physically and sexually and neglecting me. And I was often home alone with him because I was the youngest of 4 kids, and they were all in school and I was not at the time, and my mom had to go to work full-time to support the family. So I was left home alone with my dad a lot, and most of the time it was neglect. And during those times there was much more neglect than there was like sexual abuse. I could count on maybe my fingers and toes how many times, but like neglect, mental abuse, physical abuse is the same as sexual. It didn't happen all the time. It was just kind of once in a while, but the other stuff was constant. And so I just would start eating and just eating and eating as a child, just as a way to cope, you know. And my mom divorced my dad when I was 14, which is when my bulimia started. And so I kind of had to deal with the whole new thing. And so I was telling him this, and he stops me and he says, so what's the difference between your eating disorder now versus your eating disorder when you were a child? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I was binge eating and not throwing it up. That's different, I guess, from bulimia, as opposed to binging and throwing it up. He says to me, do you think it's the same eating disorder if what you were going through in your childhood versus what you were going through in your teenage years versus what you were going through in your adult years? Are those all the same eating disorder? And I said, of course not, because as a child, there was binge eating disorder, and then I stopped doing that. Well, I kind of still did that, but then I added purging and bulimia, and then I added anorexia later. And he said, that's not what I mean. I want to know, is it the same intent? And I was like, what? What are you saying? He's like, was your childhood eating disorder, did that have the same intent as when you were a teenager after your mom got away from your dad? And then when you got married and started having memories coming up and that triggered your eating disorder, would you say that all of the causes were the same at the time? And I said, no. And he said, all right, I want you to focus on that this week. He said, I want you to name your childhood eating disorder, and I want you to have it I want you to make it in your head that it was a different time period. And I want you to think that eating disorder. I want you to think the one that was there for you when mom and dad would be fighting, or that was there for you when dad would just lock himself in his room and you would be left alone with nothing but yourself in a full kitchen. That it was there for you when you would witness your dad abusing your siblings. It was there for you when your dad abused you. It was there for you through all of the trials and unbelievable pain that I went through as a child. It was there for you. And as a child, that's all. I didn't think of it as an eating disorder. As a child, it was comfort. I needed comfort. And so I got that through food. And so it's very different going from using food for comfort to, okay, then my mission was getting boys to like me, and girls, but I wasn't out, so boys. And then that went all the way through till I married Danny. And then from then on, it turned into dealing with, having sex with Danny, because we waited till marriage. And after our marriage began, that's when all my memories started coming up with my dad and with other people in my life and other sexual abuse memories. And so it's like there were 3 different types of eating disorders. I don't know if this will help anyone out there, but it really helped me to show compassion to my childhood eating disorder. So this is me as a little girl. And I can tell you that before I learned this piece of advice, I would look at pictures like this. I would look at all the pictures of me as a little girl. And I was probably, oh my gosh, I don't know, 9 here, maybe. So I was a pretty large child, and I got even bigger after this. But I used to look at things like this, and I'm not gonna lie to you, my voice was in my head, whether it came from Ed or myself or whatever. I used to think to myself, ew, she is so gross, she's so fat, she's so ugly, she probably smells really bad. Like, why would she let herself do this to herself? Like, what was she doing to herself? Like, what on earth? Like, ew, she's gross, she's disgusting, nobody likes her, nobody wants to like her. So to go from shaming this little girl for my whole life and switching my thinking into showing compassion to not only this little girl, but for the thing that got me through what I got through. Because had I not had it, I don't think I would have survived. It was my only source of comfort at the time, besides my mom, but she was at work all the time, and my siblings, but they were at school all the time. I was very alone. I was very isolated. I was being bullied. I was being teased. I look at this little girl now, and I remember this day. I was telling Danny this. I remember this exact moment because it was at a Christmas party for my church, and my cousin was visiting, who's like the most perfect human on earth, and like every boy has a crush on her. She's just one of those people. She looks exactly like Blake Lively. Like, she's gorgeous, and she's good inside too. That's the other, like, you can't hate her for being so perfect, because she's also like has like the biggest heart in the world. So she's one of those people. Anyway, there was a boy that I really liked in my church, and my cousin was visiting, and I remember that this was up on a stage, and like on the floor in like the basketball court areas, everyone was eating dinner and just taking turns taking pictures with Santa. And I remember looking out into the audience and seeing the boy that I was obsessed with flirting with my cousin. And this isn't abnormal. I saw that all the time growing up. It affected me later as well. But by the way, that's not her fault. If you happen to be watching, I didn't say her name, but I'm sure you know who you are. But like, it's not your fault. Not at all. Anyway, but all I remember thinking was, first of all, I'm gonna break this man's knee, and it's gonna be the most embarrassing thing, and this boy is never gonna like me. And so to think that, and then to look up and look out into the audience and see him flirting with my skinny, beautiful cousin, all I remember thinking was, I am a worthless piece of shit. And that is so sad. Now that I've changed the narrative in my head to treat myself as a child, to look at these pictures, now what I see a little girl who Now I see things completely different. Now when I look at this, you know what I think? I think, oh my goodness, this little girl is so scared, so hurt, so alone, so sad. But also, this little girl had the biggest heart in the world. She was so sweet. She would ask Santa Claus every year for Christmas. She would ask Santa Claus to for money for the poor. That's it. And we were poor growing up too, so Santa would give me $10 every year and put an envelope in the tree, and it would be labeled money for the poor. I would just ask for money for the poor. Like, what little tiny little girl does that? Like, what child? And that started at like 5 years old. Like, who does that? Like, I was such a sweet heart, and I see that, and I see the pain in this girl's eyes, and I see me trying to, I'm gonna cut my dad out of this. You can you can't really tell, but it's too blurry. But I see a little girl that just was hurting and that felt so scared and didn't know what to do. And so she turned to food, and food is what made her survive. Now, later, when I got into junior high and my bulimia started, I think that's about the time that I realized I had an eating disorder. I didn't know I had an eating disorder growing up. First of all, nobody talked about it, hardly at all. And even if they did, if you weren't like a skeleton, you weren't considered to have an eating disorder. Like, these days, people are still really ignorant about it, but back in my day, if anyone who's not looking like Karen Carpenter back in the day were to say that they have an eating disorder, they would get, okay, which is so sad, and which makes me really happy that things are evolving, things are changing, thanks to brave people out there that are willing to speak up and share their stories like you guys have with me. It means a lot, and it's helping this world progress and make it comfortable and normal to talk about these things, because obviously, as we all know, what this eating disorder did to me in the long run is just something I wish every day that I could take back. I so wish that I could go back to that little girl and just tell her everything's gonna be okay, and tell her you're gonna get out of the situation that you're in. Your mom's gonna get you out, and you're going to be able to start a brand new life and have fun with your friends and go to parties and go to school and try and do well in school and concentrate and spend time with your family and spend time with your cousins and your best friends, and you can do anything, you know? Like, this is what I would tell her, as opposed to, I just was so desperate to get out. And then once I did get out, I didn't even know what to do with myself. The only thing I knew was, the very first thing was that I fell in love with a boy, obsessed with a boy, but he wouldn't show me affection. We were really good friends when it was just the two of us hanging out. He lived next door to my grandma, which is where my mom lives now. But he was affectionate when it was just the two, not like kissing or anything, but when it was the two of us. But at school, he would act different, and he always had a crush on the skinny girl and stuff. And then he also had a crush on that same cousin that I was talking about from before. And so we were all in school together, and that was really just that time of right after the divorce. I went to live with my grandma, brand new school, didn't know anybody. This boy is the one that showed me around. That's why I got obsessed with him, because I have daddy issues, and my daddy left, and psychologically, a lot of girls cling to boys after their dad leaves, or if something happens where their dad isn't in their life, they tend to cling to boys, and I was definitely one of those people. And so I just wish I could go back right before that happened and was like, hey, focus on yourself, focus on taking care of yourself and planning for a future, because I didn't. All I focused on from the divorce until I married Danny was obsessing with boys. I didn't think about school. I didn't care. I was always late to school. I failed school. I did horrible in school. I had to do packets my senior year to catch up. I had to have help with it. I had to be homeschooled. I had to, I barely even graduated. It's a wonder that I did, to be honest, but it's because of all the help that I had. And I just didn't care. I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about a future. And all I cared about was getting married and having a man love me. So once I found that, and then I got married, it was like, now what? Oh, now we have babies, right? That's what's next, right? Okay, well, that plan had to be put on hold because my eating disorder came back very badly, like way worse than before, because this time I wasn't a teenager just doing it, you know, at home at night in the middle of the night once. Now I was at home alone all day while my husband was at work, all alone, and all I did all day every day was binge and purge. That's all I did, 10 times a day. That's all I did. So my therapist asked me to give a name to my childhood eating disorder and to my teenage eating disorder and my adult eating disorder. I think I named the childhood one JoJo for a personal reason. That name to me says somebody who really hates themselves, but really they are the most beautiful, kind-hearted person in the world. And if JoJo's watching, I'm talking about you. Anyway, someone that I just really admire and was incapable of seeing their own beauty and incapable of wanting good things for themselves. And so I named it JoJo. I don't remember what I named the other ones. I don't think I ever did yet, but it helped me immensely to compartmentalize. It helped me to separate, you know, and show compassion to my childhood eating disorder and say, you know what? Thank you for being there for me. Who knows where I would be if I didn't have you? Like, thanks, dude. Seriously. Thanks, bro. Thanks for being there for me from the ages of 5 to 13. Thank you. You saved my life every day. You kept me going every day. Do I wish I never had you? Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if this video makes sense. I don't know if my point is coming across how I want it to be, but like, it just was so empowering for me. Ever since I changed that inner narrative that my therapist gave me and told me to do, ever since I changed that, that is what has kept me going in recovery. And that was the one thing that made recovery stick for me, because I've been close to recovery many times and it always comes back. But this time, every time I start to feel myself slipping, I think of that little girl. I think about what she survived. I think about how she survived, and I am grateful for it. And I say thank you to that eating disorder. My teenage, my adult eating disorders, those are different. Those are for another time. But for now, it helped me so much to focus on not hating that little girl for starting such a shit show that is my life. You know, I always looked at her like, why did you have to start this? Why? Like, why? Why couldn't you have done something else? Why didn't you focus on school? Why didn't you obsess over school? Why didn't you obsess, like, it took everything from me. And so I've always blamed myself, but that little girl had no choice. That little girl was in so much pain all day, every day, felt so alone, didn't have anybody that she felt truly understood her, and had to watch abuse and being abused herself and watching her loved ones being abused, which is even worse in my opinion. And that little girl got through it. And if food is what got her through it, great. Is this me encouraging an eating disorder? No. I'm just saying that that's how it was for me. This is my story. And for me, it did me a hell of a lot of good to think my childhood eating disorder and to look at myself as a child differently now and to see what a beautiful, kind-hearted, giving, loving child that she was, that wouldn't hurt a fly and took every piece of anger out on herself and not on other people. She was so kind to other people. She cared more about other people than herself. And she just was hurting and just trying to survive and get through it. So I have compassion for her now. I love her now. I love little Shani. What a sweet little angel she was. And I'm grateful for her, and I'm grateful that she did anything to survive so that I could be here still. And I feel the same way about my other eating disorders as well, but that's another video because this is really long. I thought this would be like a 5-minute video, and I'm at 30 minutes right now. It's probably not that much for you because I'll do some editing, but holy crap, I thought this would take 5 minutes to say, but I'm just not good at talking. So again, good thing I'm a YouTuber. Anyway, I hope this helps somebody out there. I would love to hear in the comments below if you can relate to this, or if you have something similar, or what helped you, what was the pivotal thing in therapy that nobody, like I've been in therapy since I was 14 off and on, and nobody ever brought that up. Nobody ever worded it like that. Like it just clicked with me. Is there anything for you that clicked with you in your eating disorder recovery? If so, please tell us in the comments below. And as always, leave the comments open and look for other people that might be struggling with the same thing as you. If you relate to a specific comment, just be like, hey, hit me up on Instagram. We can become friends and we can help each other and we can listen to each other and validate each other and love each other and help each other through our things because we have so much in common. So hit me up, girl. Like seriously, this community is amazing. I'm so proud of it. And I'm so grateful for all the new people that we have, and that they'll be able to hopefully see a more healthy place to go to talk about their own struggles and to be shown consequences of what can happen. And I will forever be really sad, I guess, and that's how my life went. But you know what? That's just how my life went. That's just how that one went. Sometimes that's just how it is. Sometimes that's just how life goes. And you just try your best to deal with the hand that you've been dealt. Okay, I've talked enough. I will see you guys really soon for another video. Probably tomorrow. I'm hoping to post a lot this week, so we'll see, but I'll see you soon either way. But I love you guys so much with all my heart, and remember forever and always that you are beautiful, you are worth it, and she is too. Thank you for watching, bye! She is cute. She's so cute. Look at her, what a cutie. I look like a minion.